Well, hello to everyone joining us out there, and welcome to the 9th annual and first virtual Lotus Untold Stories Showcase. My name is Austin Reese, and I am Director of Survivor Empowerment at Lotus Legal Clinic. On behalf of everyone at Lotus Legal Clinic, our valued project partners and showcase sponsors, I want to say what an honor and a privilege it is to celebrate, applaud, and provide a community platform to the survivor writers and student artists who participated in the Stories We Tell writing workshop and the Untold Stories programming this past year. Thank you all for your hard work, for your resilience, for your voice, and for all that you do. Organized by Lotus Legal Clinic to support its mission of survivor empowerment, Untold Stories is an educational, social, and legal justice program that includes hosting writing workshops, poetry readings, art exhibitions, a community showcase, and a literary magazine, all to empower, support, and promote the voices of survivors of sexual trauma. Untold Stories publishes visual and literary art that helps to heal survivors, brings awareness, and deepens understanding. It stands for the belief that personal transformation, empathic connection, and catharsis through art are a necessary part of empowering survivors to become agents of systemic change. Last year, in partnership with filmmaker Karen Urbach, we made a short film highlighting the work we do and some of the survivors that make this program what it is. I'd like to show that to you now.
A Chicago Tribune investigation found hundreds of sex abuse cases that went unreported or were underreported.
I was shuttered into the dark. It felt like I was the one under investigation. We were just kids. We were just kids.
The systematic cover-up by church leaders, the weaponization of faith, the failure of law enforcement.
During my tour on the USS Frank Cable, I was raped by a superior non-commissioned officer. I was ordered by my command not to report this crime.
So they bring her into the police station and they interrogate her as a criminal suspect instead of questioning her as a rape victim.
A law firm needs poetry because law is about giving people a voice, and law is about breaking down barriers and removing obstacles to change. If you want to create change, you have to make people feel something first. Until they feel something, they won't act. And they won't act from the right place of understanding. People have a mistaken concept of laws getting passed because they think that you pass a law and then everything changes, right? Because people are complying with the law. Law doesn't just come from some sort of an abstract place of what's right and wrong. It's people who decide what's right and wrong. When you cultivate empathy in society, the end point of that, or one of the end points, is that it becomes the reason that laws change. Through the Untold Stories project, story is the narrative of the truth. It's the piece of you that nobody ever believed or that you never really found the way to say it.
attending this writing workshop and actually delving into the writing process helped me heal. Every time I go and I speak and somebody's like, oh, wow, you're such a good speaker, I always say that it's because of this writing workshop. That is because I learned how to articulate my words on paper with a sense of confidence rather than a sense of fear.
The writing helped me in my healing process by looking at the actual words on paper. It gave my brain a chance to process it and release it. It was a big release.
Untold Stories starts in the fall of the year, and we hold a testimonial writing workshop through our wonderful partners, the Voices and Faces Project. And the writing workshop itself brings together approximately 15 survivors of sexual violence. And during the process, we use a series of writing exercises to help people understand how their work out in the world actually goes forward to an audience. It's not just internal. It's whose mind am I changing who didn't understand what my experience is like. So during the workshop, we're really shifting from this writing as healing, which is a huge part of it, and then we make this shift to writing as testimony. Where will my work go? What do I want to do with this voice that I found that is so strong?
Response art is responding to the stories of the survivors using the art process. In Untold Stories, we use response art as a way to develop empathy in people. One, the people who are creating the artwork, and then also to the people who are viewing the artwork and reading the stories that are written by the survivor. And so then there's this, I believe, what's called a multiplier effect that happens, where then you have this third process of people who are able to experience these things, not having written the piece, not having experienced the trauma, and also not having created the art.
My sense of how the trauma impacted her was that she had lost her sense of self. And over time, she began to kind of reinterpret that identity. And my favorite line in the poem had something to do with that pain fading into the background, and she began to really realize who she was, but as a different and changed person. And she talked about wisdom and strength and being a new character shaped by the adversity that she'd gone through. And I thought that was really powerful because her identity had been there all along, but it took time for her to realize the shift.
We bring everybody back together in the spring for what we call the Spring Showcase. And all of that artwork is staged and framed, and we create this gallery exhibit. We have a luncheon with either a panel discussion or a keynote speaker, and it's a celebration. Untold Stories has to be a part of LOTUS. It's the heart and soul of LOTUS for this reason. We could name 100 ways the justice system fails survivors and victims every day. But what we do have to offer is a second path toward a sense of justice. And that comes from people finding their own voice. And then for that person to be able to walk on a path that makes a difference. Untold Stories has been just phenomenal in creating survivors as agents of change. They are the catalyst for some amazing things that are happening.
And now I'd like to introduce our Interim Executive Director and Staff Attorney at Lotus Legal Clinic, Kate Knowlton.
Thank you, Austin. Thank you so much. And I am going to read my remarks so that I don't cry. So very proud of this moment. So sorry. See, I knew that was going to happen. Good evening, and thank you so very much for sharing part of your Friday night with Lotus to celebrate these remarkable survivor writers and artists. I'm Kate Knowlton, and it has been my absolute privilege and honor to be filling in as Interim Executive Director for 2020 at Lotus, as an attorney is a far more comfortable and continuing role. And though I am proud of all the incredible staff and work that we continue to accomplish at Lotus in acknowledging and respecting and audaciously adapting to the COVID reality for our world in this moment, I have repeatedly commented to this incredible team that I am thrilled that this showcase is not only beautifully carrying on, but stands here and now as yet another model of resilience. Following the lead of our incredible clients, the creativity, flexibility, and professionalism needed to accomplish this very lofty goal were in full force through the incomparable Austin Reese, our Director of Survivor Empowerment, the professional expertise of Deb Brennigan and Laura Fuller Cooper, and supported in every and all ways by our very own Lizette Olivas and Heather Cool. I personally thank them for their amazing commitment and dedication to this project and our clients. Sorry. And on behalf of Lotus, this brilliant event of survivor empowerment demonstrates that the true power and impact of finding and using your voice makes a difference. That is what Lotus strives to support, and the individual and unique strengths and victories that we make for ourselves, sometimes when we least expect it. This has been a very challenging year for everyone, and for so many reasons. Lotus continues its fight for victim rights, for better informing systems to respect and to learn from survivor experience, for real and lasting change and trauma-informed practices, for justice and for peace. Lotus continues to be fortunate with allies in this fight, like Waterstone Bank, the generous and forward-thinking signature sponsor of tonight's event, like our board, dedicated volunteers who put their time and talent into the continued growth and necessary adaptation of our organization to ensure mission-driven decisions and service at uncompromising professional levels. And particular gratitude for underwriting tonight includes board members Allison Lippman and her family and Krista Wittenberg and her family. We could not do it without the continued generosity and support of all of our friends and donors, and we extend to you our most sincere thanks. And so yes, quite a year. And as we all may feel like we are stumbling into this upcoming holiday season with unknowns around every single corner, this event has been quietly breathtaking in the best of ways. Tonight, what a bright, inspiring, and perspective-bringing program. You will be glad to be here and witness such depth and power. I am humbled and completely delighted to be able to be any part of this extraordinary culmination of these survivors' heart, strength, beauty, and voice. Thank you for being here. Lotus is so very fortunate to have that amazing depth and breadth also in the commitment and expertise and talent of our own board of directors. And it is a delight and privilege to introduce past president, Barry Slagle, to make some remarks on behalf of the board. Thank you for being here, Barry, and all of our board members. And I will give it over to you.
Is it unmuted?
It is.
All right, I am a past president of the board for Lotus Legal Clinic, and I have attended and read several untold stories in the past, about 6. My introduction to art therapy was really an accident. My courtroom was attached to the Children's Court Detention Center, the jail, which was taught by the Wauwatosa School District. I learned that their curriculum included art. I asked to see if any of the kids would be willing to share, and I would put their works of art up in my courtroom. The results were overwhelming. The works were amazing, and many of them included writings. Several were from what I now know to be traffic survivors under the age of 17. 8 years ago, I was introduced to Lotus and Untold Stories. What I saw, read, listened to were all deeply moving. The stories of trauma, exploitation were interpreted by artists of all ages over those years, including the Milwaukee High School of the Arts. The common goal was helping survivors to begin to heal their wounds of sexual violence. Talking, writing, art, music, therapy, listening, each in their own way, an expression, a voice, and a spirit that seeks a chance in life and respect of oneself as well as from others. There has been much progress for those fortunate enough to have been reached, but there's so much more to be done, so many more communities to become aware and educated, so many changes to be made, so many survivors more to reach. This year's version of Untold Stories faced tremendous obstacles and barriers brought to bear because of the pandemic. Austin and Brianna, Kate and the staff and the board, our supporters throughout the years worked to produce this therapeutic piece of art, which I believe stands on its own and will help survivors heal. On behalf of the board, I extend our thanks to the hard work by so many to benefit those whose childhood has been stolen and lives traumatized. And now I'd like to introduce our therapist and educator, Laura Fuller Cooper, who is a project partner of Untold Stories, a founding member of the Milwaukee Art Therapy Collective, a professor at the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design, and president of the Wisconsin Art Therapy Association. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you for that kind introduction. And thank you so much to everyone for being here with us tonight. I'm so proud to have been able to have the opportunity to offer the second class of Untold Stories for the students at MIAD, Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. This spring in 2020, we had the class Untold Stories, Art Therapy and Witness Writings for the second time, as I mentioned, and was offered as a humanities elective. So students came from a variety of backgrounds and different visual art majors, including everything from illustration and communication design to new studio practice and even interior architecture and design, and brought with them an interest and empathy towards learning about trauma and survivors of violence, and bringing that new awareness to the very personal witness writings of the 2020 cohort in the Untold Stories project. So the students were able to choose one of the pieces that spoke to them to create a visual response to that writing. And the writing, as well as the art products, serve as a witness and as a piece of advocacy for survivors of violence. Last year, we were able to bring the artwork to Madison, to the state capitol during Crime Victims Awareness Week, but unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we weren't able to do that this year. However, we're very pleased to offer a show of the work again at Milwaukee Art Therapy Collective, and we had planned to do an in-person event tomorrow, but have had to postpone that due to COVID safety precautions. So now you see the exterior of the collective on 92nd and Burleigh, and we're going to come inside the studio and view a video showcasing the artworks. And we're also going to play for you 6 recordings of survivor writers reading their written pieces alongside the corresponding student art responses. These powerful pairings and many others are published in the latest issue of Untold Stories magazine, which you can purchase at the Lotus Legal Clinic website, lotuslegal.org. So first up, we have Carla reading her piece, Are You There, God?, with an art response you see to the left there by Julian Wilkes.
Are You There, God? By Carla. Dear God, people say that the universe is benevolent, that there's a bigger plan out there. They tell me to have faith. In my experience, the universe is not benevolent. I was sexually abused by my father. You already know all this, unless, like my mother, you chose to look the other way, buried your head in the sand, or actually knew and didn't do anything. Unless you were like the other adults who turned a blind eye. In case that's you too, let me spell it out for you so you can rethink that master plan of yours. Maybe you know all the details, even the ones I suppressed deep in my psyche so I could survive, and the ones that remain hidden today but still hobble me. It can be a good day and suddenly I'm hit with a flashback. I have no say. It is often a visual image no one in their right mind would ever want to see. Often accompanied by a barrage of, I wish I were dead, getting louder and louder in my head until it almost, or does, make me believe that to be true. In 4th grade, I still didn't know how to read. I hid it. I am an expert at hiding. One of the many things I've become an expert at and can't stop, even though I see it no longer serves me. No one knew I couldn't read, not even me. I was smart enough to fake it and still get all A's. So I took some tests. The tester uncovered the fact that I was suicidal and suggested therapy. My father said no. What a surprise. My mother went along with him. What a surprise. I used to look out the window of my 10th floor apartment and wonder, if I jump, will I die? I don't want to jump and not die. I was never sure what floor you have to jump from to be sure you will die. At 20, the truth breaks through the armor I so skillfully created. My life turns upside down. At college, I can barely get out of bed for weeks. I can't take off my clothes, shower, eat. I can't go home, can't see my father. I tell my mother and sister because I have to, not because I think they will support me, but I hope. I tell them because my sister is going to get married. At the very least, I will not sit at a table with him. My sister says, "You were just trying to ruin my wedding." My mother says I must be mistaken. We go to see my therapist together. They say, "When are you going to forgive him?" My therapist agrees that forgiveness is the goal. She has taken their side over mine, and in that moment, I lost my only ally. My goal was not forgiveness. My goal was just to get through the day alive. Some days, that was not even my goal. Some days, I wished I were dead. I wished he had killed me. When I stop speaking to him, my father goes into a psychotic depression. My sister tells me, if he kills himself, it will be your fault. I can't read, can't think. Waking is filled with flashbacks that make me want to die. I pray for sleep, but when it comes, it is wrought with nightmares until another day begins. No point being in college since my brain is hijacked by these flashbacks. A year is what I decide I will need to deal with this. I'll take a year off and go to therapy. 28 years later, I laugh at this naive thought, but also see the genius behind it. If I knew what a long, hard road this would be, I wouldn't have been able to put one foot in front of the other those early days. At Alvin Ailey's Revelations, my favorite dance, I feel a knife in my ribs and hear my dad's voice, "If you tell, I will kill you." Revelations has never been the same for me. But the memory might explain the story, told by my mom as if it is humorous, that I didn't speak for the first 6 months of preschool. The teachers were worried, but my parents weren't since I spoke at home. Maybe I didn't know what I could tell and what I couldn't. Years have passed and still I have a hard time finding words, as if there's still the threat, "If you tell, I will kill you." God, was this part of your plan? I go to therapy and mostly I talk around the abuse, not able to share any details. Those are not words that I would want to say in any context. Also, I still feel the knife, and "if you tell I will kill you" looms large in my psyche. After I share, my legs fall out from under me. Better to keep it all inside. But that isn't working for me either. I can't win. I wonder who I would be if it were not for the abuse. It is likely that my avoidance of intimate relationships, tendency to check out, seeing myself as damaged goods, insomnia, and numerous health issues all stem from the abuse. I'm also a good listener, very empathetic, and great with kids. Is that also a result of the abuse? Is there any part of me that I can claim as all mine? Everyone in my life sees a different part of me. No one sees too much. That would give them too much power over me. I don't trust anyone, not even myself. If your father touched you and raped you, and your mother failed to protect you, would you? The people I was supposed to trust ruined that for me. And now, people tell me, trust that the universe is benevolent. I wonder if they would say that if they lived through what I did. I wonder, how do I trust you, God, when you let this happen? Hiding was helpful, necessary, but it is lonely. I want to learn a new way, but how to convince that part of me that is still trying to protect me that this isn't my secret to keep. This isn't my shame, it's his. Even after 28 years, new flashbacks come. I never have a say. They never come at a good time. The truth is, it's never a good time. I don't want to see this, don't want to remember this, don't want to share this. If I can't handle what I'm seeing, remembering, why would I tell anyone else? They will judge me, use it against me, think less of me. Or they will not, but they will bring it up when I'm not braced to hear it, and it will pull my legs out from under me. I might go as far as to say I have forgiven him, but God, forgiving you is harder. If you are, as I was told, omnipotent, how could you have let this happen? If you are omnipresent, God, where were you when my father was doing these unthinkable things? If you take other forms, why did no one come to my aid to protect me? Why is this process of remembering so painful? I lived through this once, and now I have to live through it again and again. I want my life back if I ever had it. God, if you do decide to rethink this master plan, I would like to go back in time and erase this, make it so it never happened. If you are not truly omnipotent and can't go back in time, well then going forward, I would suggest you rethink this so other little girls and little boys, grown women and men don't have to suffer this. Please, God, I beg you, reconsider. Are you there, God? It's me, Carla.
Okay, I think I'm on. Okay, our next piece is Jeannie Suarez Del Real reading her piece, Knight in Shining Armor, with an art response by Zoe Belovarak.
Knight in Shining Armor by Jeannie Suarez Del Real. She was a fresh young face in tight blue jeans, a naive, giddy teenage girl, trusting, vulnerable, and hungry for love. She jumped into his chariot, a long yellow Delta 88, and was inducted into a clan. He was her knight in shining armor. Her own broken clan was limping, unaware and helpless to bind or carry their own. She embraced the wealth of his kin, a real tribe, now hers. They had each other's backs in a clannish kind of way. They had community, family's always there for you and you're never alone. They had approval and belonging, and they knew how to love. They had dirty little secrets, and they had each other. Her knight in shining armor, for better or for worse, clasped hands in trade with the barkeep, his best friend, bartering his young bride for steins of mead to sate his quenchless thirst. They defiled her, heart, her whole. Death's darkness he imposed. Her knight in shining armor, for better or for worse, through all her youth and then middle age, he locked her in his tower. No need to think or feel or speak. He alone decides what's best. Bound by steely locks of fear and bars of fists and words, to love this stranger, she betrayed herself and mourned her drowning hope, her hands empty to survive. Knight in shining armor, for better or for worse, fragmented was he. Jekyll was imposing in his shining mail for all to see, yet disarming with his jester charms. Hyde hid in the shadows, outside the moral law, his self-proclaimed rules valued above all. He plunders, pillages, and leaves for dead all those weaker than himself. How broken inside is a man who leads a double life. Her knight in shining armor, for better or for worse, breathing fire, he swore to poison her inclusion in the clan. I will erase you. They will not know you. His voice so loud and strong. His dagger sinking deep. In victory he holds high her bloody heart. Knight in shining armor, hatchet master with signet ring. Avowed destruction, removal from beloved. Demolition of her dreams complete. Hope fell like rain. She's no longer deceived by him. She's learning he is wrong. It was hers to choose all along. Hot tears and slavish dread give way to freedom's warm sun upon her face. Refusing fears and crociato, she trusts the clan to think and choose. She carries no white flag on the long journey she must travel. Resilience is her banner. She knows the one who dwells within and carried her through the fire. Knight in Shining Armor by Jeannie Suarez Del Real.
Okay, next up we have Debbie Walter Roy reading her piece Intimacy with an art response by Olivia Zurowski.
Intimacy by Debbie Walter Roy. Safety and intimacy is a comfortable space within myself and with others. Freed of the fear of transparency, authenticity, and vulnerability, daring to trust myself and others, risking pain, which is the price of sanity. Freedom to explore and express and love and be who I really am, or at least have the freedom to do it. A place free of judgment and justifications, free of accusations and defense, a place of acceptance of myself and others. To be seen, to be heard, to be known, not fighting to express myself or performing to be accepted, to give, to reach out, to be needed in a way which doesn't ask me to diminish or dismiss myself. A beautiful dance of giving and receiving. This is the intimacy which I so desperately seek.
Next up, we have R.C. Nicole reading her piece, Do I Need an Explanation? With an art response by Gavin Krause. This is a short video that he made with some stop motion animation.
Do I Need an Explanation? By R.C. Nicole. Dear Sir, I was under the impression that we shared an understanding about my feelings and boundaries. Remember when I called you on that warm summer night? The memory that I was so diligently trying to bury came to light again. The emotional turmoil stored up and it put me into a hysteria that I could not contain. I was desperately seeking comfort, and you, Dad, came to the forefront of my mind. I met you, and it was then that I disclosed the violation that occurred at the hands of your sister's husband. As memory serves me, you were highly upset at this news. Why didn't you tell me? Feelings of betrayal crept in, and you were ready to confront any and everyone who knew. Initially, you expressed your deepest apologies for your absence, but when the heaviness felt like a burden, you switched up on me. Why didn't you tell anyone about this? As if it were easy. Surely you cannot ask a 35-year-old woman to explain the thoughts of a 16-year-old girl. You were in jail for using your hands as boxing gloves and mom's body as the punching bag. Mom, in her depression, turned to drugs and alcohol for comfort. I was left to be a mother to children I did not birth, uprooted from my home to live with extended family. I don't know. Maybe I felt guilt for having to be there in the first place. Maybe I didn't have the courage to speak up for myself. Maybe I felt confused as to how and why this was happening. Do I need to explain? Can we just settle on the fact that he violated me because he wanted to? After exposing my truth, the silence was deafening, and I felt like a victim again. Family loyalty embodied the core of my existence for as long as I can remember. But he was only married into the family, not born. Presumably, protection was inevitable, or should I check, not applicable. Aren't fathers supposed to be their daughters' first heroes, being the example of chivalry, protection, and unconditional love? Forgive me, that was my fairy tale ideal. I desperately desired happily ever after. Surely that was far from the nature of our relationship childhood. Why would I expect it now? I guess I was hoping that you would take this opportunity to rescue me. Your sister died years later. Relief described my feelings in knowing that I would never have to hear his name or be in his presence again. Suddenly, the familiar face of betrayal surfaced. You invited him to your retirement dinner.
Woo! Yay! All right. Woohoo! Woo!
Do I Need an Explanation? By R.C. Nichols.
Next is Heather Nelson reading her piece, Old Friends, with an art response by Ariel Scott.
Old Friends by Heather Nelson. We searched for old friends, you know, the familiar ones, those frightened by novelty, addicted to the sameness of our shared drunken dads, the same indifferent moms, burnt out on Xanax, lactating on similarities. We feared they might witness the secrets we couldn't hide underneath our skin, the unspeakable lurking within. Wishing for vigilant siblings, we trusted new friends who couldn't understand, but the old friends survived silently. Bonds built by deliberate restraint, fashioned in the same familiar hate. New friends aren't familiar with the strength to move harm to light, the stamina to persist when shame stares down virtue, the courage to rest when pain stays overnight. Old friends never question us. That's why we choose the old, you know, the same ones addicted to the familiar, the ones who never ask for proof, the ones we always told.
And lastly, here's Donna Jensen reading her piece, 500 Paces, with an art response by Anna Lozina.
"500 Paces" by Donna Jensen. It's men, not just any kind, the ones who have a high and mighty way about them, but you can almost guess they spend a lot of time worrying about being laughed at. Always, my whole life long, in a deli line waiting to order cold cuts for the week, at one end of a bar with two girlfriends clinking glasses and passing jokes, in a classroom staring in between the lines, even at church trying to keep up with the choir's hallelujahs. He'll not just enter the space, he'll part the air as he strides in, his high octane energy overcoming every other essence tenfold. Even if he's speaking softly, which he'll do sometimes just to get you to lean in to hear better. Though mostly the tone of his voice will be laced up with a commanding nature. He'll have a little charm braided into his declarations, a prelude to how he softens his blows. He'll look you in the eye every once in a while just to keep you there. Make no mistake, I'm not talking about one guy in one deli or one guy in one bar. They're all over the place. Even airport waiting areas, chins up, shoulders back, buttons and zippers closed and up for the time being. I always imagine it's only for the time being. I know these guys. I can smell these guys at 500 paces. Been able to since I was 7 years old. These guys who look a certain way, talk a certain way, move a certain way that sets off alarm bells in my stomach and sirens in my head and shivers up my spine every time, all the time, ever since I told myself the truth. Most of the time, since I've done a barrel full of therapy, I know myself enough to look the other way, get the girls to move away from the bar or move to a different desk in the classroom. I've gotten self-preservation down to a science, mostly. But once in a while, if my guard is down, one of them will get close. So close that the misty steam of his voice will insert itself down my ear canal. And then it'll start. It's like a sheet of ice gathering at the nape of my neck that spreads over my shoulders, traveling inside my veins and wrapping around muscles until there I am, a statue frozen in place with memory.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Michael Snowden. I've been the man behind the computer and the technology for this showcase today. I just wanted to say a couple of words, and I'm really impressed by all of the work and the poems that have been put out through this project. We were only able to show you 6 of them today, but there's 15 more for you to go look through this presentation. So we will be sharing the link to this gallery walkthrough, and also go to Markey Art Therapy Collective and take a look at some of these pieces of art in person. So yeah, I'm really impressed by all this art, and it's so powerful and so touching. So I thank you to all the artists, and I thank you to all the poets, and I thank you to Lotus for putting this on in this project. Now we're going to be moving on and go back to Austin. He has a few more words for you guys before we wrap up for today.
All right. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Thanks for everything you've done to help with this. I want to conclude tonight's 2020 virtual showcase with just a few reminders to echo what Michael just said, and a few announcements as well. So firstly, I just wanted to mention that the Lotus at the Lotus Legal Clinic website, which is lotuslegal.org, you can continue supporting and learning from survivors by purchasing a digital or physical copy of the 2020 Untold Stories magazine, which features the poems and artworks you saw and heard tonight, as well as many more amazing pieces from survivor writers and student artists. Also, on the Lotus website, you can take a free tour, as Michael said, of the virtual interactive Untold Stories exhibit, and you can register for open hours to attend the in-person Untold Stories exhibit currently installed at the Milwaukee Art Therapy Collective. Side note, just due to the ongoing COVID crisis and the recent stay-at-home order from Governor Evers, the official start date of this in-person art exhibition has been postponed, but I encourage you to please check the Lotus website for future updates on gallery hours going forward. Also, all the attendees of tonight's showcase can expect a follow-up email from Lotus with a post-event survey. We would just love to hear your feedback about tonight's event. And lastly, I wanted to let you know we have another wonderful virtual event called Rise and Thrive, scheduled for tomorrow, Saturday, November 14th from 10 to 10:30 a.m., which celebrates alums of the Untold Stories program by exploring the natural landscapes and seascapes that give them a sense of peace, joy, and hope. If you're interested, you can visit the Lotus website to register. Well, thank you everyone who attended tonight, and thank you to everyone who's made tonight's showcase possible. We are also grateful, and we hope to see you again at a future Lotus event. And so take care and good night.